My name is John, and I'm 18. I've always considered myself a rational person, not prone to fears and superstitions. But that night changed everything. I was driving to a friend's house in a neighboring town, and to save time, I decided to take a shortcut that an acquaintance had once mentioned to me. It was a narrow road leading through the woods, rarely traveled by anyone. The evening turned into night, and the ski broke into a heavy rain, hiding the road under a shroud of water. I was feeling confident until I heard a sharp sound, a flat tire. My heart sank into my heels. I pulled over, got out of the car, and surveyed the damage. My phone was only showing a couple of % charge, and I realized that I would soon be completely without a connection. It was useless to wait for help. No one was passing by. So I decided to walk. I closed the car and walked along the road, hoping to find some help. But soon the road led me straight into the woods. When my phone finally turned off, I was alone in total darkness, surrounded by the sound of rain and wind. My rationality hadn't gone anywhere, but fear seemed to fill the space around me. Fear of the dark was one thing, but fear of getting lost in the woods, when every rustle makes you wince and every shadow seems to be something alive, was something else entirely. I tried to stay calm, reminding myself to walk straight ahead, trying not to deviate from my direction. My mind tried to push away thoughts of wild animals that might be lurking in the darkness. But I kept going. Each step was difficult, but I knew I had to keep moving forward no matter what. As I got deeper into the forest, the sounds of the night grew louder. The rain was no longer just rain. It had become a noisy symphony, with each drop hitting the leaves with such force as if it were trying to awaken something ancient and forgotten. I tried not to think about what might be lurking in the darkness, but the farther I got, the more I felt someone's eyes on me. Suddenly I thought I heard footsteps. They were barely audible amid the rustle of leaves and falling drops, but I was sure they weren't the echo of my own footsteps. I stopped, trying to see if someone was sneaking up on me. But as soon as I froze, the footsteps stopped. I waited a little longer, holding my breath, but when I started moving again, they resumed. It was so frightening that I felt my legs begin to tremble. It's just my fantasy, I convinced myself, trying to keep my own spirits up. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. There was someone else in the woods, someone who was following me in the darkness. I quickened my step, trying to get out of this place as quickly as possible. In my imagination, the forest was filled with eyes watching me from all sides. I could feel the adrenaline overwhelming my body, making my heart beat so hard I could hear it in my ears. Finally, when my strength was running low, I noticed a flicker of light through the trees. It wasn't a bright light, but rather a dim glow, but in that setting, it seemed like a beacon of hope. I headed towards the source of the light, praying that it was a way out of the forest, and it was indeed a way out. I stepped out onto the roadway where, to my surprise, I noticed the approaching light of headlights. With my last strength, I stepped out into the road and raised my hand, barely believing that my night of horrors would finally be over. The car stopped, and a middle-aged man got out, with concern in his eyes. He helped me fix my flat tire and even offered me hot coffee from a thermos. When I told him about my journey through the forest, he listened attentively but made no judgments. "The forest is full of mysteries," he said when we had finished. "Sometimes it is best not to disturb them." As I drove to my friend's house, I couldn't shake the feeling that last night I had indeed encountered something inexplicable. Although I reached my destination safely, the impressions of that night will stay with me forever. My name is Jack. At the age of 16, I witnessed something that changed the way I viewed the world around me. It happened one fall evening when the wind was slowly whipping fallen leaves through the streets, and I decided to buy a new game for my console. Getting home on the subway seemed like an everyday ritual, until that evening. Sitting in the nearly empty train car, I felt fatigue come in waves. I thought I would only cover my eyes for a moment, but I woke up in total darkness. The wagon was standing still, and my phone was dead. For the first time in my life, I felt a real fear of being alone and forgotten. Not wanting to stay trapped, I decided to get out of the car. Along the dark subway tunnel, I moved forward, treading carefully on the tracks, my breath echoing in the void. Then I saw the shadows. They were reaching for me through the darkness, slowly but steadily. I tried to run away, but where to run in the confined space of the dungeon? In desperation, I found a door and locked myself in the maintenance room. The knocking on the door, which began a few minutes later, was so loud and insistent that the whole room seemed to shake with me. I huddled in the corner with my eyes closed, begging for a miracle. Time seemed to stop. The pounding subsided, but the fear remained, filling every corner of my mind. After sitting in complete silence for about an hour, I found another door leading into a long, dimly lit hallway. As I moved forward, my footsteps sounded quieter and quieter, for in my imagination, the corridor was filled with all my fears that had come to life in the darkness. When something cold touched my hand, I couldn't help but scream. It was the peak of my fear, the epitome of every nightmare I could think of. But when the lights came back on, I saw the guard in front of me. He was so real and alive that I couldn't believe my happiness. The guard told me that I had gotten lost in a closed part of the station when the train had been emergency stopped due to a technical problem. He helped me out into the light and even offered me his cell phone so I could call home. When I finally got home, I found that it had only been a couple hours, but it felt like I had spent an eternity on that subway. That night would stay with me forever. I will never again be able to stare calmly at dark corners and closed doors, knowing that fear is not just a feeling. It can become your companion if you let it in.